What if I told you the most famous prison in America wasn't just built to hold criminals, but to erase them? Not just from society, but from hope, from identity, from reality itself. A place surrounded by freezing water, razor-sharp currents, and silence so heavy it could break a man faster than iron bars ever could. They called it escape-proof. They called it inescapable. They called it the end of the line. But what if the truth behind this prison isn't what history books tell you? What if the real story is far more unsettling?
Welcome to AM Story Archives.
Some stories were never meant to be found. Some truths were buried for a reason.
The fog always came first. Before the guards, before the sound of steel doors slamming shut, before the distant echo of chains dragging across concrete, there was always the fog. It rolled in slowly, swallowing everything, turning the island into something unreal, something cut off from the rest of the world. From the outside, it looked almost peaceful. But that illusion didn't last long, because this was Alcatraz, and Alcatraz was never meant to be just a prison. It was a message. Built on a small, isolated island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz stood as a silent warning. If you ended up here, you were already forgotten. The men sent to Alcatraz weren't ordinary criminals. They were the ones no other prison could control. Bank robbers who had humiliated law enforcement, escape artists who made guards look like fools, men whose names filled newspapers and terrified cities. Alcatraz wasn't designed to punish them. It was designed to break them. From the moment a prisoner arrived, the process began. No shouting, no dramatic speeches, just silence. They were stripped of everything: names, identities, dignity, given numbers, given routines, given rules that never changed. Wake up, eat, work, return, sleep, repeat. Over and over, until time itself lost meaning. The cells were small, barely larger than a closet. Cold steel bars, a thin mattress, a toilet, a sink. That was it. No distractions, no comfort. Just the sound of the ocean outside, constantly reminding them how close freedom was and how impossible it would be to reach it. Because the real prison wasn't the walls, it was the water. The waters surrounding Alcatraz weren't just cold, they were deadly. Freezing temperatures that could paralyze muscles in minutes. Currents so strong they could drag even the strongest swimmer out to sea. Sharks, rare, but enough to fuel fear. Even if a prisoner somehow got past the guards, the walls, the locked doors, the bay itself would finish the job. Or at least that's what everyone believed. Inside the prison, something strange began to happen over time. The silence changed people. Some prisoners adapted. They followed the rules, kept their heads down, and survived. Others didn't. There were men who stopped talking entirely, men who stared at walls for hours, days, weeks, men who lost track of who they were. And then there was the hole. Officially, it was called solitary confinement, but among prisoners it had another name, the hole. It was a place where time didn't exist. Pitch black, no light, no sound except your own breathing, and eventually not even that felt real. Prisoners sent there described something chilling. At first, they heard things, footsteps, whispers, sounds that weren't there. Then they saw things, shadows moving in the darkness, faces that disappeared the moment they tried to focus. And finally, they felt something, a presence. Not guards, not other prisoners, something else. Whether it was their minds breaking or something deeper, no one could say. But one thing was certain, no one left the hole the same. But even in a place designed to crush hope, hope didn't die completely, because there were always those who believed they could escape. Most attempts ended quickly, caught before they even made it past the walls, or worse, disappearing into the water, never to be seen again. Their bodies never recovered, their stories never finished. Just names on reports, marked presumed drowned. But then came one attempt that changed everything. It began quietly. No violence, no chaos, just patience. 3 men, working in silence, watching, learning, waiting. For months they studied the prison's routines, every guard movement, every shift change, every weakness, no matter how small. And then they started digging. Their cells had small ventilation openings, too small for a man to escape, but not too small to start. Using makeshift tools, spoons, pieces of metal, they slowly chipped away at the concrete, night after night, carefully, quietly, hiding their progress with fake walls made of cardboard and paint. To anyone walking by, everything looked normal, but behind those walls, an escape was taking shape.
Time was their greatest weapon. Because no one expected patience inside a place built on control. They worked for months, expanding the holes, creating a hidden space behind the cells, a place no guard ever checked. And inside that space, they built something even more unbelievable. A raft. Not from wood, not from anything obvious, but from raincoats, dozens of them, stitched together, sealed, inflated. A desperate invention, something that shouldn't have worked, but it was all they had. And then came the night. No alarms, no shouting, just silence. They slipped through the holes, crawled through the hidden passage, climbed to the roof, and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, the prison woke up to something impossible. Empty cells, but not completely empty, because in each bed there was a head, a fake head, made from soap, toilet paper, and real human hair, placed carefully on pillows to fool the guards. And it worked. For hours, no one realized they were gone. By the time the alarm was raised, it was too late. The men had vanished. No bodies found, no confirmed sightings, no answers. Officially, the case was closed. Presumed drowned. That was the final verdict. But not everyone believed it, because there were inconsistencies. Reports of strange sightings, letters sent to families, unexplained evidence that didn't quite fit the official story. Some believed the men made it, that they survived the impossible, that they escaped Alcatraz. And if they did, it shattered everything people believed about the prison. Because Alcatraz wasn't supposed to fail. It wasn't supposed to be beaten. It wasn't supposed to let anyone go. Years later, the prison closed. Not because of escapes, but because it was too expensive to maintain. The island was left behind, empty, silent, abandoned. But even today, something remains. Visitors who walk through the old cell blocks often say the same thing. There's a feeling, a heaviness, like the walls are still holding on to something. Some hear sounds, footsteps when no one is there. Others feel sudden drops in temperature, cold spots in places that should be warm. And then there are those who swear they're being watched. Because maybe Alcatraz didn't just hold prisoners. Maybe it absorbed them, their fear, their pain, their desperation. Maybe all of it is still there. And the truth? The truth behind America's most famous prison isn't just about criminals or escapes or history. It's about what happens when you take away everything from a human being and leave them with nothing but silence. Because in the end, the real question isn't whether anyone escaped Alcatraz. The real question is, did anyone ever truly survive it?